Go. So another awesome chapter of 1 Million Cups, and I want to tell you that we have a really cool treat for you today, because we talk about startups and having to pivot and react quickly and address the unknowns and things that happen along the way, and that's what happened to us. We had a presenter that unfortunately canceled at the last minute, or not complete the last minute, but canceled, and we had to scramble to provide you guys with an engaging and interesting journey and story. And so yesterday at 7 o'clock in the morning, I sent a text to Joshua Johnson and said, hey, what do you think about coming tomorrow and talking to us about Rethink Homelessness and what it takes to go viral? And so I didn't hear for a while, and then I got a response, and he said, okay. So I'm really excited, and thank you again, Joshua. A big round of applause for Joshua to step up. And as we speak, he's still tweaking his presentation. So that's why he's going to go second. So real quickly, this is 1 Million Cups by entrepreneurs, for entrepreneurs. We're all volunteers here. There's several of the organizers are in the room. Some are not and are joining us via live feed. David standing right here. Shay, there you are. Raise your hand. Shay sitting right there next to Joel. Kansas City. Thank you very much. Say hi to Nancy. And Alex and Natalie are on Parts Unknown, hopefully joining us by live feed, but maybe not. This is, again, an experiential learning experience sponsored by the Kauffman Foundation. We're here to be helpful, not destructive. For those of you that are new, by the way, show of hand, who's here for the first time? Just raise your hand. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. We don't bite. Very good. Next week, you guys have to come back and bring a friend. That's very important. And so, just as an FYI, this is not Shark Tank. This is a friendly, uplifting, constructive, ideas, helping out to maybe see other opportunities, introducing the entrepreneurs to opportunities they may not have seen or realized or know about. So that's what we're all about, and that's what we want to do. Come on in, please, and grab a coffee if you want beforehand. Already caffeinated. I like it. So without any further ado, we're going to start the process right now. Pete, you ready? Sure. Here we go. Let's welcome our next presenter, Pete.
Good morning, everybody. And there we are. Okay. So my name is Pete Diebel. I'm the founder and CEO at Zipline Green. And I'm going to take some time today and tell you a little bit about the technology that we've been working on for the last couple of years. So with that, we have what's called a smart guideway. And this is like the definition we give to industry people, where it's a solar-powered transit system housing a flexible combination of infrastructure components operated by a single digital control system. You guys got that, right? Yeah. Okay, so let me break it down a little bit so that us non-technical people can understand it. So this is a guideway that you're probably used to seeing. I don't know how to use that part. Oh, here we go. This little thing right here. So that's a guideway at its most basic is a groove or a track along which something moves. So anybody that lives in Orlando, odds are you've been to Disney, you've seen the monorail. The monorail runs on their guideway. It's a reinforced concrete thing with some power going through it. So I happen to like Iron Man, so that's why Iron Man's on the screen. Our guideway is a bit different. It's a bit more. This is actually the original design for our guideway, which is patent pending. We are at least a generation beyond this, and we've got 2 or 3 physical designs that we're working on that are different for reasons like environmental conditions, things like that. So to give you an idea, so the arrow here points to this little thing here, which is where the train goes. So you saw it on the monorail. Then we built out from there. This thing is actually solar powered. It's got panels on the roof. It has power inside. This is a maintenance tunnel, but inside it's got areas for power grid extensions. A lot of our client communities that we're targeting don't have grids between their cities. They just have grids in the cities. So we can add power grid extensions to them. We bring data. A lot of places don't have data. We bring the data. We have pipeline options that are inside. We can put natural gas in there. We can put distilled products like jet fuel, gasoline. We can put agricultural products. We can put water, fresh water. My partner would really like to put sewage, but that's a whole other animal that we're not going to get into today. Grid level storage. We've been in talks with a company called Ambry that has a really innovative grid level storage solution that they're working on. And finally, every time a client community would have any one of these aspects in there, they would have a command and control system for every one of them. What we bring to the table is one command and control system that runs everything. And that's what we're actually in the process of designing right now. Okay. So to give you an idea of what the impact on our community would be with this, let's talk about a local route. This one got some press back in May. You can see that good-looking guy there on Channel 2. Thank you, Bree. This route is from the Orlando International Airport out to the Orange County Convention Center. And this is the convention center area here with the first 3 stops are the ones that are designed now. Under our route, we would add the 4th one for freight. So to give you an idea about this thing, the distance is just under 14 miles. It's got 5 stops, but the stops are clustered at the ends of the route, which makes it highly efficient. You can get to good speed in between the ends. Ridership, we're putting a conservative 2 million. We do believe this could get up to 5 million in time, but we're going to be conservative here and say 2 million. The current status, American Maglev Technologies, that was the company that made all the headlines back in May because they got the rights to lease the right-of-way for this route. So they're looking at it right now. Now, from here down, this is all Zipline Green information. So if this were built by Zipline Green, the cost would be $778 million. So not a small amount, but we got some cool stuff in there. The construction time is just under 2 years. Now, every train company out there in the world can offer you fares as a revenue source. But because we bring in the solar technology and our software that we're developing for it, we can offer our client community some other sources of revenue that aren't normally out there. Surplus power. This route, we can power the entire train, the guideway, everything, plus have a surplus of energy that would power 900 homes in the Central Florida area for a year. All right. Beyond that, carbon credits. 33,000 carbon credits are generated by this every year. Payback is actually under 9 years. It's actually less than the number on there. I ran the numbers again last night. You wouldn't believe me if I put the real number up there. So this is what we're about. We're about creating infrastructure, innovative infrastructure in our communities. My ask to you is this. How many people out there have heard of a company called Solar Roadways? Anybody? A few? Okay, a bunch. All right. So that's owned by Scott and Julie Broussard. They're actually friends of ours. One of the things that made their Indiegogo campaign go crazy, beyond the fact that they have a really cool product, is the fact that they already had a following when they started. So I want you to help me create a following. So my first ask is just anybody in the room or any of your friends that you think might think this is cool, or even if they just want to see if we flop someday, I don't really care. Either way, like us, friend us, follow us, all right? But more importantly, I am looking for a select number of people to be champions for our cause. These are people who are going to get out on social media on a quarterly to every other month kind of a basis and really push us with your following, okay? We want to create a following so that when we go out and we start building these things, it creates a chain reaction throughout the world. I thank you, and what questions do you have?
Your hands and we'll give you a microphone.
Will any of your stops possibly could they link up with the Sunrail so that somebody that lives in the suburbs that needs to get to the airport, because that's a big
Absolutely.
disappointment in Sunrails, it doesn't go to the airport.
Right, and I will tell you this, I actually never thought we would work in the United States. After watching the debacle of 2010 when we elected a governor who ignored all the voters and then just killed rail here, I thought, well, why would I want to work in a place where that can happen? And we looked at the whole developing world. However, momentum is changing, so we've actually set out routes. This is just one of the ones that's currently approved for another company to look at. We actually have routes around the city that are pretty darn good, and they do link up with Sunrail. And I'm a huge Sunrail fan, so.
This seems that it would have a lot of applications in a developing country. What other areas would this really blossom?
Well, I appreciate you asking that. Our target market right now, we're looking at the Arabian Peninsula in a big way. These are places that have a lot of money and no infrastructure. When you look at Saudi Arabia, for example, they're building tens of power plants in cities, but there's no grid in between them. So let me use a real quick example for this. If you look at the road that goes from Dammam in the east of Saudi Arabia, which is where all the oil is, it goes down through Riyadh. Oh, sorry, let me go backwards. So it's here, and then you go through Riyadh, which is the political force of the peninsula, and all the way down to Mecca, which is the holiest site in Islam. At most, they have a road about the size of 1792, about 4 lanes, that's connecting those cities. There is no power grid. There are no pipelines, well, for the most part. So we've been looking at this from the idea of putting this technology in there. With that, and that installation alone, we could power 50,000 homes in Saudi Arabia with clean energy. So we are looking at some things in the US, but we're mainly targeting the developing world, the place that is kind of in that mid-level where they've got plenty of money, but they don't have infrastructure yet. Thank you.
Right here.
Does combining all these things like transportation, natural resources, and power create a security concern? It does make it a target, sure. But we already combine a lot of these things. We just don't know we combine them. I don't want to say we combine them because nobody's really doing it this way. We do place them near each other already. We have designed some things, and I can't really go into it, but we have designed some security mechanisms into the design. But I think that at the end of the day, if someone wants to make it a target, it doesn't matter if it's 1 infrastructure or 15, it's still going to be a target. So.
Hi, so I know you said you're trying to build a following comparable to the solar roads. Is that because you're planning an Indiegogo and you're looking for funding that way, or what's the
that is yes, we are working on it. We're moving towards an Indiegogo. We actually have an angel investor that's looking at us right now, and we've actually self-funded to this point, all the way through all the patenting process and all of that. We have an angel who is looking at us to invest the next amount, which will get us about 8 months of the way, and then we actually do have some people that are looking at us for the big unfortunately, this is a big chunk of money. That being said, we are looking at an Indiegogo campaign in order to fund our design document for our software. So.
Anyone else?
I have a question for you. Why would a country like Saudi Arabia be interested in solar considering their wealth in fossil fuel? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The Gulf states, the states of the Gulf Cooperation Council, which is basically everyone on the Arabian Peninsula other than Yemen, has set aside over $250 billion with a T for green energy. And you have to understand that that culture is based on they're merchants, okay? So if Saudi Arabia sells oil to us, we're going to pay, say, $90 a barrel. If they use it domestically, they only get $4 a barrel. So for them, they look at it where why not power our own home with the really cheap energy and then sell it all to the to their customers. So it's a business decision. So.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I walked in a little late, but I know what Zipline Green is, and I'm really happy you guys are doing this. I think you touched on it just a little bit with your reference to our governor, but how do you overcome the political obstacles with any infrastructure project, especially one that requires people to actually, admit that there is an environmental problem here. That's my question.
Okay, well, there's two sides to that. Outside the U.S., most of the places we're targeting, the people that make the decisions are the king or the prince or the princess or the queen or something like that. So it kind of skips through a lot of the red tape. When they say, I want this, it pretty much gets done. And even if they kill it midway through, they still pay you. So that makes that a little bit more appealing. From a standpoint of here in the U.S., the biggest way to get around that is through privately funded projects. That's why you see with American Maglev Technologies, the company that has the rights of way, they're a privately funded deal. So they're funded. Look at who their partners are on their website. I'm not going to give away their press, but that's how you get around that. Mostly. I mean, you still got a place in politics, but we have people for that.
Hey. How are you going to handle all of the electric companies that are around here? It's a big monopoly.
That is an interesting discussion. It's actually one Scott Broussard, who owns Solar Roadways, and I have had this conversation because technically speaking, whoever generates the power, whoever owns the thing that generates the power, owns that power. I don't know yet. We're working on that. So I'll be honest with you, I really hadn't thought we'd be doing anything in the States, much less Florida, as far as building things up until about 9 months ago. And a couple of our champions came through and said, hey, this is an opportunity, we need to jump on it. So we're figuring it out.
First, just want to make sure I connect with you at the end. We can get you in at the prime minister level to 21 countries, most of them in Africa, the rest are in the Caribbean. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about the power to the 900 homes. Is it how are you getting that to the homes? Because I would just think you would sell it to the power company.
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me just say that's a way of explaining how much power we were generating extra. The average home in the United States uses 24,000 kilowatt hours a year. So I can't do the math on that in my head, but it's 24,000 times 939. That's the surplus for this particular route. Now, what we usually use, would we actually use that for homes? Probably not. We'd probably use that to power stations. We would use it to power electric charging stations for cars. For any number of things that are connected directly to the guideway system.
I'll add one thing, probably for anyone else in here that has a vision that they think is too big. It can get funded very easily if it fits into a national business plan. I've seen the business plans of those nations. Nations have business plans.
Yeah, they do, and that's actually a really good point because I had this was just pardon the term, a wild-ass idea back in 2009. But my business partner, Jeff Soper, actually has some really good ties on the Arabian Peninsula, and he and I coincidentally have worked on infrastructure projects on the Arabian Peninsula. So they actually are looking for things that are in a lot of these developing nations that have the money but don't have the infrastructure. They're looking to look at technologies that are a leap ahead of what's already out there. So
any other questions? So your asks are fairly clear. Become an advocate of the brand and help you push the message out there. So we're happy to step up and help you, and thank you again for the presentation.
Thank you.
So one of the asks that we have from 1 Million Cups is to say hello to not only our wonderful sponsors, without whom we wouldn't have live streaming. Say thank you to Rudy and Joy Castor. Raise your hand, Rudy. And if you're all intrigued by the voodoo science that he employs and secret algorithms on how to get this done, you'll hear more about it tonight at the demo days for Starter Studios. So. as he's one of the companies. So please make sure that you do go there. Bess, where are you hiding? There you go. Bess is also going to be presenting there. So great stuff to listen to, and a great way to help and promote and push what's happening in the startup industry in Central Florida. Rollins Entrepreneurship is hosting us here, so they're our landlord. Keep the place clean. Throw the cups and clean after yourselves, please. And last but not least, our friends from Barney's Coffee, who are generously donating. So continue to tweet, use Facebook, whatever you need to do to tell them that we appreciate it, and we're very grateful for that. And of course, all the organizers, you have right here all the Twitter handles. A quick thing for you guys to know, one of the things that being part of 1 Million Cups allows you to do is to participate in a online, nationally broadcasted radio competition called Dream Big America. And here's the cool thing. Orlando has so far sent 3 companies to compete during that radio show. One is actually Joshua with one of his other startups. Dan McGaw, that no one knows because he's very shy and introverted, with Fuelsy. I participated in that with one of my other startups called World Housing Solution, and I'm really excited to tell you that Complete the Pair, with whom I'm also involved, and the 2 founders are sitting right there, Scott and Goose, raise your hands. They've presented before at 1 Million Cups, are going to compete this Friday. So Complete the Pair is competing this Friday in Dream Big America. We will put that on the Facebook page for all of that, on our Twitter feeds and everything else. And this is hate to say this, it's a popularity contest. So that means it's just like Chicago, vote early, vote often. And so we're counting on you guys to help us out there and push the message and make sure that people realize that Orlando has a vibrant community. It will help Complete the Pair in the exposure, and obviously it helps all of us as a startup community to stick out on the map and make sure people know we're here. And that's also a thing for you guys to remember, that as part of the alumni of 1 Million Cups, not only are you allowed now on our passport program to go and present anywhere in the country where 1 Million Cups has a chapter, and we're now in over 45 cities and growing, but it also allows you to participate and qualify to compete in Dream Big America. So help us win this Friday. And without any further ado, Joshua Johnson.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation once again. We have to stop doing this so last minute, though. As Ron mentioned, I've been here before. I did a pitch for Learn Everywhere, and today I'm here to talk about something else I've been working on, which is called Rethink Homelessness. The first thing I'd like to say is that Rethink Homelessness is a campaign, and it was born and it lives within the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness. So there's been a lot of separation between what that means, but this is actually one and the same. I'd like to open by actually playing the video that I think a few of you may have seen. I'm going to assume that some of you haven't, because we haven't been viewed over a few billion times to make sure everyone on Earth has seen it. So let's just play it real quick so you guys can get an idea of what's behind this.
I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings in the movies, and I'm not proud of my address. In the torn up town, no postcode envy, but every song's like gold teeth, Grey Goose dripping in the bathroom, bloodstains, ball gowns, trash in the hotel room. We don't care. We're driving Cadillacs in our dreams, but everybody's like crystal, Maybach, diamonds on your timepiece, jet planes, islands, tigers on a gold leash. We don't care. We aren't caught up in your love affair, and we'll never be royal. It's a run in our blood, same for us. We crave a different kind of bond. Let me be your ruler. You can call me King B, and baby I'll rule. Let me live that fantasy.
Okay. So, Rethink Homelessness is about changing the general public's perception of who the homeless are. And more importantly, it's about getting people who are not homeless to understand that they definitely have something in common with people that are. I can see some tears in the audience. That wasn't my intention, but I have to admit I'm happy to see that, because that tells me that this resonated with you and it has affected you in some way. A lot of times when we talk about the issue of homelessness, we talk about issues in general. We talk about statistics, right? You know, it's this number of people have done this, or this number of people are suffering from that. And those numbers and those statistics are important, but what's more important are the actual faces behind them. So, for example, this is Edward. Edward and his little brother and his mom are homeless. There are over 1.1 million children that are going to be homeless throughout the school year in the United States. To me, the number doesn't mean anything unless you can put Eddie's face with that, because he, in fact, is going to be one of those children this year. In Orange County, we have, honestly, we don't even know the actual number. Somewhere way north of 1,000, possibly upwards of 2,000 people that live in the woods. And I don't mean that they're camping out in state parks. I mean that they are living every day in the woods. They're out there without power. They are out there without access to clean water, showers, and the basic amenities that we all, myself included, often take for granted. Next time when you hear somebody lives out in a camp and you think they're camping, I'd like for you to remember Jim. Jim has been living in the woods for about 2 years now. He committed some crimes years ago when he was struggling with poverty at the time. Went to prison, got out, has not been able to find employment since. Jim's longtime girlfriend, who lives with him in the woods, has been battling breast cancer. Jim, quite possibly, has prostate cancer, hasn't been confirmed yet. Okay, now, I know this to be a fact. I know the medical team that works with him that takes him to the appointments to help get treatment. One of the fastest growing segments of homelessness here in Central Florida is women and children. Oftentimes, they are fleeing from domestic violence. Again, does it matter that that is the fastest growing segment, or does it matter that Stephanie is in fact one of those people? Stephanie's 24 years old. She's been homeless since she was 18. She ended up giving up her son to a family member because she couldn't have her son living on the street with her. Eddie. Eddie is 62. Actually, no, he just turned 63 last month. He and I share a birthday month. Eddie was a U.S. veteran. You know, we all hear the numbers, right? There's a lot of U.S. veterans that are out there. And honestly, I don't even know what the number is, because I don't care. What I care about, the fact, is that Eddie has been out on the street for years and years and years. And he's been out there after he put in years of service so that we could all be here this morning and enjoy coffee and live stream stuff and have the freedom to have these conversations. Another goal is to kind of dispel some of the myths. So sometimes you'll hear people say that homeless people are lazy. Well, Eddie right there at 63 years old gets up every morning probably before most of us do. He pushes this cart several miles to get to downtown, and then he has a very specific track that he covers going through downtown, collecting aluminum cans, so that by the end of the day he can go in and trade those in for what I believe right now the going rate is about 46 cents a pound. He does that 6 days a week. He would do it 7 days a week, but the recycling center is closed one day and he can't turn them in. Chris. This is a picture of Chris showing me where one of the 15 to 20 or so places that he has lived in downtown Orlando. This is, well, that's right under I-4. And for a period of time, that's where Chris lived. Currently, he has a camp where he sleeps downtown. What might surprise you about Chris and about a lot of other people that are homeless is that Chris actually has a job. He's had a job for several years now. He works in fast food. And, you know, it's often difficult to understand how somebody has a job and is actually homeless. But you'd be surprised at how expensive it is to be homeless. When you don't have the ability to store food, for example, everything you buy is pretty much ready-made. That's usually not cheap, right? So Chris has been struggling to get back on his feet. This is, like I said, one of the locations where he's lived. He actually at one point was literally sleeping in a tree, which is located in downtown Orlando. So that gives you an idea of what the last 4 years have been like for Chris. This is Fred. A lot of people that are homeless either end up there because of medical issues. They get in over their head. They're not properly insured, and they can't pay their bills. They go bankrupt. They lose their home. They end up on the street. There's also a lot of people that are homeless that aren't homeless because of medical issues, but they're facing severe medical issues while they're homeless. As you can see here, Fred's sign says he has stage 2 lung cancer. Fred has also had numerous surgeries on his back. I've seen all the scars. So when you talk about the number of people that are struggling with life-threatening illnesses that are homeless, remember Fred. This is Nehemiah. Nehemiah is one of the more difficult cases to explain because with him specifically, it's an issue of mental health. I knew Nehemiah, he's one of the first people I actually met when I started working on this campaign. And let me rephrase that. He's one of the first people that I met that would immediately open up and just talk to me. I met a lot of people that were very closed off because people had come through and said, we're going to get the word out about what's going on, we're going to get you the help that you need, and we're going to get you off the streets, and it didn't materialize for them. So when I came in and started talking to people, a lot of them, rightfully so, were skeptical. Nehemiah immediately was like, hey, let's go talk. Let's hang out. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. So I'd walk around with Nehemiah, or oftentimes we'd sit, he loved to just kind of sit with his back leaning up against the trees throughout downtown. I talked to him for about, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks. And the entire time, the only thing I would have really been able to tell you about him is that I was positive he was 10 times smarter than I am. He talked about things that I could not begin to understand. Like, quantum physics, string theory, all this stuff. I mean, I couldn't begin to understand. Several weeks into knowing him, his issues with mental illness came about. But it only came about through weeks and weeks of conversation. I mean, anybody who just walked by him wouldn't necessarily know. They might guess just because he appeared to be homeless, but they wouldn't know through just having a conversation with him. By the way, Nehemiah asked me to take that picture specifically because there was a police car sitting behind him. And he's like, this is my life, you should take this picture. This is Michael. Michael has Huntington's. More importantly, Michael is one of the happiest people, also one of the most stubborn people I know. Another myth I think that people hold is that people that are homeless are angry and they're going to accost you to get money from you, and they're just ornery and they're mad at the world because they've been held down. It is oftentimes difficult to get a smile off of his face. Like, I've gotten in arguments with him, I've gotten mad at him, and he just smiles at me. Like, I can't even argue with the guy. It kills me because I like to argue sometimes. Michael has a death sentence. I mean, we all know that we're not going to live forever, but Michael has Huntington's, which will rapidly speed up his clock. He started showing signs at the age of 18, where normally you wouldn't see it until somebody's in their 40s. So he's 24 now. He just celebrated his 24th birthday last year. But anytime somebody tells you that all homeless people, or the majority of them, are just angry, ornery people that are mad at you for holding them down, I hope you'll think of Michael, because it couldn't be further from the truth. People ask me, what is the solution to homelessness? Well, there's actually only one, and that is to take people who do not have a home and put them in one. So that is actually Michael standing at the front door of his apartment. He just moved into a week and a half ago. It's a transitional housing program. I don't know if it's going to be the right place for him. We'll see as time goes on. But this is what we have to continue trying to do and in different ways until we find the most effective way to get everybody off the street. Now, Nehemiah, that I talked about earlier, he would ask you all day long to rethink homelessness. We've talked about it, you know, hours and hours. Unfortunately, Nehemiah can't be here today because he passed away last month while homeless in downtown Orlando. So, I'm sure a lot of you probably expecting me to talk about how to make a video go viral and what that entails. And I'm happy to talk about some of the more specifics behind that. However, I truly believe that what makes a video, in this case, go viral are the stories that I just shared with you. Unfortunately, the video itself just gives you a tiny little glimpse into each of their lives. And of course, over time, we'll be releasing, you know, more content that shares more stories, backstories, and continuations of you know, where people came from and where they're going. But that would be my answer. A video goes viral because of people like Michael and Nehemiah and Eddie, and the fact that they continue to live on the streets of downtown Orlando or in the camps surrounding us every day. Thank you.
Question.
For the victims of domestic violence, are you working with Harbor House? Because they won't turn anyone away. They'll have people sleep in the halls if they need to.
Right. So let me point out, I am not the solutions guy, and I don't know about all of the resources myself. You know, I am a marketing guy. I'm the person that jumps around and says, hey, everybody, look over here. There's something important I need you to see. On the back end of that, the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness is working on a permanent supportive housing program for people who are chronically homeless. As far as other existing programs like Harbor House, you know, different shelters and things like that, the people that I work with are very well aware of those. Unfortunately, almost every program that exists excludes somebody. Now you say they won't turn anyone away, but Stephanie does have a boyfriend, and he protects her. If she were to go, you know, I mean, her domestic violence issue was in the past. It was actually out of state. And so when she came here, she was fleeing from that. But to separate them neither one of them would be willing to do that.
Just one other follow-up. I don't know if people are aware, but Harbor House now also, they have an area for people who are in same-sex relationships that have been abused and elderly also.
Okay.
So
good. Thank you.
This is the quietest of everybody is kind of in shock.
Thanks a lot, Joshua.
First off, I just want to say I did not know you were going to be here today, and I'm so excited because I loved your video, and it's great. But question I have is, you said it's a campaign. Is, for the long-term view of it, do you see the campaign, or what is the goal of the campaign to essentially maybe create infrastructure, like actual tangible ground for homelessness to go? Like, what are the legs of it, and what is the actual foundational planning to, yes, just raise awareness, but once that really, really takes off and you have billions and billions of hits, the way Michael has an apartment for transitional housing, are there partnerships involved? Is there planning to build more of that? I guess is, how do you continue the growth to go from awareness to us to actual impact for the people on the street?
Great question. So my job is to get people to look, right? Behind that, and I also want to point out that, I mean, I realize that's a picture of me, but there's several people behind this. I mean, I just happen to be the unfortunate soul. They got the foot in the butt to get out in front of the camera. So there's several people that have worked very hard to make this happen. Now, as far as what's happening behind this, awareness and advocacy is a very important component. And a lot of times people kind of breeze over it. They say, well, great, you're getting people to know. Well, I already knew that people were homeless. That doesn't help anyone that's homeless. As far as Michael goes, that wasn't, him getting in housing wasn't actually an outcome from anything that's being done here. That was something that, in this case, I personally worked on to help that happen. I couldn't stand to see him out there. And over time, I'm going to continue helping other people. I can only do so much, myself, and I certainly can't house everyone myself. In fact, I've been told that I can't call any of these people my friends because I don't allow them to live with me. And well, I won't say what I think about that, but I will say that that is not a sustainable solution. I can't possibly house everybody. Even if I have $10 million, I can't house them all myself. If everyone in here has $10 million, we're not going to house everyone ourselves. And the reality is that even if we could put them into housing, we couldn't get them the help that they need. So, getting back to your question, permanent supportive housing is the solution. It is what is working around the country for people that are chronically homeless, meaning that they've been homeless for a year or more, or I think it's 4 times in a 3-year period, and they have some sort of disability, which will likely prevent them from ever being completely self-sufficient. Okay, so that is one of the components. There are, emergency shelters, which are an important part. There are shelters for domestic violence. That's an important part. But there is no one-size-fits-all type solution. But permanent supportive housing is showing to work, and that basically says that you find people that meet the qualifications, you give them an apartment. That's it. Guess what? The average cost in Central Florida for that person was about $31,000 a year while we allowed them to be homeless, while they got arrested for being homeless, for camping, or while they were going in and out of the emergency room. Michael had been in the ER 4 times in the last 3 months, as up to 12 days for one stay. They now, on average, cost us about $10,000 once they're in a permanent supportive housing situation. So economically, it makes sense. But that's not the only solution, because that is specifically for people that are chronically homeless. So there's also housing first models that say, very similar to the permanent supportive housing, that you have to have a roof over your head, you have to have a door you can lock, you have to have some sense of security and safety in order to begin to work on whatever else you're dealing with. Because homelessness is just like one thing. It's the most obvious thing that we can see that they're all dealing with, but they all have much bigger issues behind that. Oftentimes medical, but with Michael, for example, he needs to be taking medication. He needs to be seeing a neurologist. He needs to be doing all sorts of stuff. I can't help him to do that if I can't find him because he's sleeping under a different place every night, right? So it all starts with getting somebody into housing first. And then from there, it's prescriptive on each individual as to whether they need mental health counseling, whether they need help reconnecting to their family network and their friends, whether it's, in some cases, job training or addiction counseling. I'm not going to act like nobody out there doesn't struggle with addiction. I'm also not going to act like nobody in here has never either. So the biggest difference for most of us is that at some point when we hit that issue in our lives, that bump in the road, we had a family, or we had a friend, or we had somebody that was there to help kick us in the butt and get us back on track, myself included. For somebody who goes through foster care, turns 18, no longer is a monthly paycheck and hits the street, they don't have a network. So where do they go? That was a really long answer. I hope I covered what you're looking for in there, but sorry.
There's a question back here.
So the intersection of entrepreneurism and social issues is very interesting. So what brought you here to this place? How did you transition to this? And do you see yourself staying in this social issue realm and trying to incorporate some of these entrepreneurial characteristics?
Well, I mean, I've always been involved in one way or another with social causes, and I've almost my entire life been involved with entrepreneurship. So I don't know personally how to separate. I know it does for a lot of people. I mean, I'll continue to be involved with this community in a number of different ways, and as long as my skills are required to help this, then I'm here for that. And when they're not, then I'll move on to something else where I can be of help there. I think that the whole idea of doing good to do well is really important. Now that we're seeing the emergence of the 403B designation, Clean the World, a local Orlando organization, I think is the first company to receive that designation. So they're out there to make money, but they also have a very strong social cause behind that. I am a big believer in being self-sustaining and figuring out ways to not just rely on donations. Right now, I mean, this campaign is primarily funded through donations that have come through the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness, but I'm always looking at ways that you can generate revenue and find ways to not have to rely on somebody just giving you $1. Give them a reason to need to do that. Yes, question down front.
It's a question and a comment. So there actually is a charity event Saturday night, August 9th, this Saturday, benefiting the Commission on Homelessness. So for the people in the room who might not necessarily go out and meet the homeless people, if you liked what you saw in the video, you can talk to me and I can tell you how to make a contribution or come attend this wonderful event Saturday night.
Well, there you go.
It is at the Citrus Club. It's Saturday night. It's a casino-themed event. Starts at 6. It's a wonderful event, and we have a great charity this year to help. So my question to you is, other than the event Saturday night and going around with you and meeting the homeless people, how could we make a difference in this room right now and help you help?
Good question. So I'm not going to, try to shame you or guilt you and saying every time you pass somebody that's homeless, you have to give them $1 or give them a 10 or you have to give them a place to live. But I will tell you that I believe you have an obligation to treat them like the humans that they are. And that's where it all starts. It's literally, it's practicing compassion. It's understanding, for me, the difference between me and someone that's homeless is that I have a home. And that's the most important thing I think that everyone here should realize is that is the thing that separates us. Today and tomorrow, that may not be the case in either direction. They may have a home and one of you may not. I hope that's never the case for anyone. But beyond that, if you want to be more actively involved, there's a lot of organizations out there that are out there on the front lines, every day. I was just last night, I was with a group called Straight Street that does feedings at St. George's Church downtown. They do it every Tuesday and Sunday night. In fact, most nights of the week, there are some sort of food share programs taking place down there. There are other organizations. If you're not comfortable giving money directly to people that are homeless, I understand the hesitation there. But you should not have the same hesitation to support organizations that are out there helping them, that are efficiently and effectively putting those funds to use. So obviously the commission is one of the organizations. There's the Hope team. There's 2 guys, Brad and Joel, and there's 2 women, the Nancys. The Nancys cover the camps surrounding Central Florida, and Brad and Joel spend all the time downtown connecting the people that are homeless to medical resources, housing resources, things like that. So there's a lot that can be done. I'm sure there's an exhaustive list that I just don't have, but I'm more than happy to connect anyone or answer any questions, on a one-on-one basis that might help get you to plug in the right place. Justice, down front.
And this just goes out to everybody. Just put the video up on your social network, because I mean, there's so many people that haven't even seen this. I put this up, a week or so ago, and you must have gotten, and I just asked, hey, just share this, if you believe in this. And I mean, I got 20 shares, and it was just easy enough. And then, it's the old, they tell their friends, they tell their friends, they tell their friends. My next question is, as I was tweeting, I noticed that Jacksonville has a Twitter handle. Is there a growth model in a city by city, and how can influencers and user-generated content kind of come together for you? And do you have a model for that yet, or are you looking at a model for that?
Okay, so thank you, Justice. That is definitely something that we're looking at and we're trying to figure out right now. It's probably going to work kind of like a franchise type model. What we've done here in Central Florida has been funded by Central Florida, by private citizens, local government, local companies, entrepreneurs, philanthropists. And so it's important that Central Florida sees an ROI, in this case, a way to continuously support, programs such as this. And so we're looking at different ways that we can expand other cities. When we first made this video, of course, any marketer ever that's created a video, well, these days, almost anyone who's ever uploaded a video to the internet, period, hopes that millions of people will see it. You know, there's obviously some calculations that go on in the background. There's some things that you try to do to make that happen. But at the end of the day, like, the internet does what it wants, you know. And we were fortunate that the internet wanted to do our video. So one of the, you know, our goal was to raise awareness in Central Florida, and as this quickly spread, which a lot of that kind of started with George Sakai sharing on his Facebook page for his 7 million fans, we immediately started getting requests from municipalities and cities, states, countries, saying, hey, what you guys are doing is ridiculous. How do we do that here? And so, yeah, I mean, we're working on that. You know, it's that great problem that startups have sometimes of, you know, I haven't experienced this yet, but, well, we have way too much business. What do we do? How do we figure this out? You know, how do we grow? So you know, we're trying to figure that out now. But we're seeing those requests coming in from all around the world now. You know, the video itself has been seen about 1.7 million times on our YouTube upload. Now, it's been ripped off, put other places. It's been posted in places like the Daily Telegraph, where they did not actually, you know, send it back to YouTube, stuff like that. So I mean, it's been seen a couple million times at this point, which is awesome. You know, go advocacy, go awareness. But now we have to make sure that that doesn't die. You know, and of course, as a marketer, the most challenging thing is now I have to figure out, or we as a team have to figure out, how do we do that again? So, but yes, growth is coming, interest is there, and we're working on it. Well, love to sit down with you and talk about. Oh yeah, you're already volunteered. Yes.
First of all, I just want to tell you that it's fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this. One of the things that I loved about the video is how easily the issue was communicated in a couple of simple words on a cardboard. Normally with any kind of policy fight, when you're talking about any kind of like big social issue policy, there's a lot of words that get thrown around about the causes of homelessness versus the effects and how to address it. I guess my question to you would be is how do you take this message and convey the simplicity of this message to stakeholders like city officials and governments and people who have the financial capacity and the power to structurally change some of the things about homelessness without getting lost in the weeds of a policy fight? So how do you take this viral message to policyholders and stakeholders and convince them to act on this?
Great question. So fortunately, politicians are people too. And so, you know, when a lot of them have seen this video, it struck a chord for them. But more importantly, I'm not personally focusing on, you know, the 5, the 10, the 50 or 100 most influential people. The way I look at it is, I'd rather have 1 million voices behind it saying we have to do something about this than having the 5 people at the top saying we need something about it, because eventually that pushes up. If you can convince 1 or 2 people at the top, you might get some change right now, and they might get voted out of office. But if you can convince 1 million or 2 million people, especially in a concentrated area, that this is really important and it becomes a flagship issue for them, then it doesn't matter who gets in office. And in fact, anyone who subsequently gets in office will most likely have those same beliefs, whether they're personal or political. They'll have them because that's what will get them and keep them into office. So I'm not concerned about the top few people. I'm concerned about the people in this room and the people in all the rooms like this around the country, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that will be at the voting booths. They're the ones who are going to determine that. So I guess that's my answer to that. And beyond that, as far as the causes of homelessness, I personally don't care what causes homelessness other than to understand it so we can help prevent it. But once somebody is homeless, I personally don't care why or how. It's irrelevant. I don't care if any one of those signs, to tell you the truth, are honest or not. Because the one thing I know about all those people is they're all suffering, regardless of how they got there, regardless of whether they made a bad decision or 10, regardless of whether they had cancer or they fell down a flight of stairs, regardless if they've ever had a job or never had a job. The one thing I know about all of them, and the only thing that matters is that they're all suffering right now. And I don't think we can continue to allow that to happen. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to have to really keep this really short. Bottom line is, I've made millions twice in my life, lost them twice in my life, went through a season of years where my resume intimidated the hell out of people. My contact grid, they wouldn't believe. I also couldn't tell my contact grid what I was going through with my own family. Never had to sleep on the street, but was this close every day for who knows how long. In the meantime, mansions showed up for 6 weeks. Hotels, 4-star for months at a time. Didn't have a car for 4 years of my own. Drove Lincolns all the time. There's a mindset. You can't receive what you can't perceive. And your relationships, I could perceive that those things would come to me because when I had the millions, I gave away cars. I let people live in houses that I had, that type of thing. These people may not have had those opportunities, so their faith can't be strong enough to push them through. But there's a way to talk to money. You never ask. I'm teaching nonprofits right now how to talk to money because they're trying an old system. I'd love to talk to you because money has ears and it's listening to things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm meeting with the CEO and the president of Hosanna Construction at 11:30. They have 15 men they've taken off the streets. Their passion is drug addiction. That particular owner of that construction company, he was an addict for years. But your ministry is birthed out of your misery, and there's a purpose and there's a reason why you went through what you did. While I was in that stage of my life, I ran the Adopt a Family program because I know that when you're helping others, you help yourself. And took a really different twist and went to the local merchants and said, listen, we have people that are in transition, no fault of their own. They don't want to be on their government dole. I was actually talking about me. But all the families that I was able to help, I took Christmas trees and Christmas ornaments to people behind Lowe's on 1792 who live in the woods, tons of them. Met them, became friends. Different food ministries said, here, you're taking food to those guys? Yeah, what else you got? I mean, when you go through it, suddenly you know about resources that no one else knows. And the only reason you're going through it is so you can help other people come through it. Or if you don't help other people come through it, you're wasting your time. So I encourage everybody in this room, whatever you've gone through that was hell, it was to help somebody else to go through the same hell. And any way that we can help you, let us know.
Thank you.
So this is one of the hardest things for me to do is to bring this to a close because I think we could be standing here and asking questions forever. But there's a lot of asks, obviously. There are a lot of things that we can and should do to help. Social media being the easiest and most direct right now. Is there another ask you want to put out in the room and get people to come and participate in? There's obviously an event on Saturday night. Anything else that you want to share with us?
Well, I mean, that's obviously how you can, get in touch with us and you can share what we're doing. On my end, of course, that's a very important part because I'm on the advocacy and the awareness side. But beyond that, I don't have an organizational ask. I mean, there is the event coming up. If you want to support that, that's awesome. I just have the greater good ask, and that is, you don't have to give somebody money. You don't have to buy them anything. If you want to, then that's great. That's a personal decision. But as human beings, I think we have a responsibility to treat each other with respect, and to not cast immediate judgment. I've done it. I'll tell you right now. For the longest time, I thought people just need to go get a job. I hate to say it, but it's true. I literally kept a stack of cards for daily work or daily pay or labor ready in my car. And when I get off an exit ramp and there was somebody there with a sign saying, we'll work for food or something like that, I'm like, oh, awesome, here you go. You can go there and get paid. And there are so many hurdles that are involved that I wasn't aware of because I just didn't know and had to take the time to learn. So I would just say that it's just really important that you treat people with respect, whether they're wearing a suit or whether they have dirt all over them. They're still people, and they deserve that just the same.
Thank you very much. For those that couldn't see this on live stream, people stood up and applauded. So first time ever at in Orlando. Thank you guys. Pretty cool, right? You never know what you're going to hear about and who you're going to meet and who you're going to and what you're going to see when you come to one of these events. So we're the platform for our community. We're the platform for your voices to help it amplify and help you guys succeed. So tell your friends, tell others that have great stories. If they don't know how to tell the story, we'll help you find out a way to do it. There are a lot of resources in the community and we'd be delighted to help you do that. Continue to come and support us. We need you. This cannot exist without you. Thank you.